Hey, welcome back to the BGX podcast. My guest today is TikTok funny man, professional comedian, and just all around a terrific person. Welcome to Grant. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
Well, it's my pleasure. Absolutely. So Grant, you've got a lot going on. Your TikTok is blowing up. You're out doing comedy. I mean, talk to us about how you got into this hobby and
flatter me more. Huh?
How did this all get started for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been a comedian for a long time, and this is just kind of the TikTok has been a nice marriage of the two things, the board game and the comedy. I started doing comedy when I was in college, and by the time I graduated, I was like, I think this is what I want to do and want to be and all that stuff. And I've had a decent amount of success in comedy over the years. I've won some big comedy competitions and been on TV and all that sort of stuff. I had an album that hit #1 on the comedy charts. But then all of that went away with the pandemic. My job kind of ceased to exist, and you might be able to guess, Zoom comedy, not the most fun. And so I just was, I liked board games a lot before the pandemic. Our collection here at our house was probably 75 games before that, which is, a healthy collection. It's not like a crazy amount, but it's a solid amount. And then, I live with other comedians too. So when the pandemic happened and all of our shows got canceled, we were playing board games every single day. I mean, that's just how we were getting through, and I was like, I need some way to stay creative. I'm a creative person and I go bananas if I'm not like doing something creative. And since the shows were off the table, I was like, I'm going to start making videos about board games. Like, I'm loving board games right now when I don't have anything else I'm doing. And, maybe I can help some other people find some good games and that sort of stuff. And I can't do much seriously. So I was like, well, if I'm going to start making content about board games, I'm going to make it funny and be silly about it,
Yeah, I mean, feel like the hobby really exploded with the pandemic and everybody's suddenly trapped at home and it's like, what are we going to do? And, like everybody's got a few board games usually sitting around. So
for sure.
I definitely,
I know it's probably one of the few industries that was like helped by the pandemic, right. Actually.
That and grocery stores, certainly.
Yeah.
They really made some good money through the pandemic for sure. Everybody's learning to cook. So
yeah. I know nobody, I can't believe there was like a time where dough was out of stock. Like nobody could find sourdough starter and stuff. And I was like, I've never even heard of that till 3 weeks ago. And now nobody can find it.
Yeah. And now I got to have some, right?
Yeah.
Somebody knows something I don't.
I will say I baked cookies for the first time in my life during the pandemic. I've never done that before.
That's awesome. So you decided to start making videos. Obviously TikTok started exploding around the same time, with everyone trapped at home and nothing to do. So why did you decide on that platform as opposed to YouTube, where you've had some other content?
Yeah, I didn't start with TikTok. I actually started on YouTube. So I was making essentially like the same types of videos I'm making now on YouTube for about a year before I started doing stuff on TikTok. And, while it was going decently well on YouTube, I also felt like YouTube really wants you to make 10-minute videos, 20-minute videos. And I just wasn't that interested in doing that. That's just kind of not who I am. And I want to be short and I want to be silly. And so about a year into doing stuff on YouTube, I was like, maybe I'll start doing TikTok too. I feel like maybe that's a platform that will like appreciate my style. Then it just kind of took off from there. I also, have a decently good work ethic. And so, I had heard from people that was like, well, TikTok, you kind of gotta do stuff every day or at least multiple times a week to really see growth. And I was like, I could do that. I'm kind of an idea machine, so I could just keep knocking stuff out, for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's the fun part about TikTok is, you have an idea there's not a lot of production you have to do to it. I mean, if you
Yeah.
have an idea for a 10-minute video, I mean, as I'm sure your experience with writing 10 minutes of comedy, I mean, that's a huge
It
lift a
can
lot of
take
times. And
months.
right. I
Yeah.
mean, you really have to think through how's it going to flow and all that. Where with TikTok, it's like, I have one joke to tell. All right, go make a video of it and
Yeah, for sure.
get it up there.
I mean,
frame
it
it up
really
somewhere.
is. Like, I love that about it, that it's just the immediacy of it, right? Where you're like, this is dumb, I'm gonna film it. And
Right.
there's not really that much that has to go into it beyond that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So take us back even further. How did you get into board games in the first place? I mean, you said you had a pretty good collection there already. What were some of the games, the gateway games that got you into the hobby in the first place?
Yeah, so I mean, if we're going way back, centuries back, I got in through Magic the Gathering when I was a
Oh,
kid.
okay.
Yeah, so I got in. That was like 94 when I was like 10 years old. We lived in a townhouse complex that backed up to a strip mall, and they had a little game store in there, and I started spending all my allowance on Magic cards and stuff. And so I did that for a while, but then I got out of games. And I should also say, that my family always liked cards and things like that. We didn't have a lot of modern board games, but we played games.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then I got into high school and I got out of Magic and started doing more sports and things like that. And then when I was in maybe like 7 years ago, my buddy started hosting game nights for comedians in Los Angeles. And the games were things, that were fun and silly and easy to get into, like code names and cash and guns and telestrations and stuff like that. And then I think that was also probably a really perfect time in my life to get into that stuff, because I also was like at the age where I was like, I don't know that I really want to go stand around at a house party anymore, right? Like I did that all through my 20s, and board games were like kind of a structured way to drink and hang out with my friends, and I wanted that. Just as much as I liked the games themselves, I wanted that like structured time with my friends. And so then I started getting more and more into it. Okay, yeah, we've tried the code names and the telestrations and stuff. What else is out there? And started going. And then, I got even deeper into the world because I had a buddy who had multiple published games, and he approached me and he was like, "Hey, I know you like games. I want to do an adult party game. Every game I've done up until this point is more like a family strategy game, but I want to do an adult party game. You like games, you're funny. Would you be interested in working on a game?" And it was not something that had ever crossed my mind before, but somebody gave me advice early on in my career that was that I've always tried to like think about and live by. And that advice was, the hardest thing for people to do in the entertainment business is to walk through the doors that open to them when they aren't the doors they expected to open. And that felt like, to me, where I was like, well, I've never really thought about making a game, but you know about that world a lot more than I do. You know how to go about pitching that. So if I was ever to do that, this is a door that's open to me right now. And I like games, so why not? And so along with the development of that game was the first time I started going to board game conventions, where I had never really even knew that those existed. Right. I didn't know that was a thing. I remember the first time he was like, "Hey man, we should go to this convention so we can pitch our game." And I was like, "What? That's a thing we need to do?" And he was like, "Yeah, they're like big deals." And I was like, "No, come on, board game conventions? That can't be a thing." And then the first one I went to was New York Toy Fair, which is about the biggest of the big ones that you can go to. And board games are even just like a small part of it. It's just a huge, huge convention. And I just remember walking in and being like, "Oh my God, yeah, this is a thing,"
Yeah, I mean, I know when I was getting in the hobby, my perception was like, oh yeah, like Hasbro and Milton Brothers, like those are the big names. And I mean, sort of, but no, there's thousands of developers, thousands of publishers, and and even more game designers and artists, and
I know
lots of people in the space.
It's pretty wild where people tell me like, oh, there's I'll have people comment on TikTok like, wow, there's a lot of games, and I'm like, oh, you have no idea. Like, I'm not even scratching the surface. I mean, I've heard the estimate of there's probably about 3,000 games that come out every year.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's wild.
Well, I mean,
a lot of those.
Board Game Geek, I mean, I went on there. That was like my first impression too. Like, well, how many can there be? Can I own every game? And I actually sorted by rank and went to the very last game, and it's not even ranked. So I had to go back about 3,000 pages, and I finally got to the last ranked game on Board Game Geek. It's number like 23,186 or some number like that. 23,000 games that are just ranked. That's not including all the other ones that haven't gotten enough ratings to get a ranking. I mean, it's insane how many games there are.
Yeah, I know. And I do try to make sure that I'm not just playing the new games. Like, we get very caught up on our hobby of what's the new hotness, what's coming out, and yes, I do want to play that stuff, but you know what? Like, I've also never played Murder Deception in Hong Kong, and everybody talks about that game being really fun, and I like social deduction games, so I would like to play that game, or I've never played Feast for Odin, and everybody talks about that. I'd like to go back and play that,
Yeah.
So I want to try to get some of the ones that I have that I missed, along the way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm doing, all these dealer disaster videos and, adding to my collection, and people are going, oh, that's such a great game. Oh, that's such a great game. It's like, yeah, I know. Come play them with me so I can try them all. Cause, I'm bringing in, right now I'm averaging about 10 games a week, and obviously I'm not playing that many. So,
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's like, it's even, let's see, I keep a spreadsheet. Let me check right now. I have so far in just 2022, for the first time, I have played 75 games for the first time in the year 2022. And yet I still feel like I'm behind on the ones that I've got,
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, who do you look for when you're looking for new games? I mean, is there a certain type of game you like? Is there a certain publisher that you love, or
I mean, there's definitely publishers that I love, that I've worked with in the past, that I've played their games, and they're consistently putting out good things. Lucky Duck Games, AEG, two that come to mind right away. But there's a lot more than just that. Floodgate Games, I like a lot of their stuff. So, that being said, like, you can't say yes to everything. And so, there are times where I'm like, I just don't think that's the right game for me. So I do try to, really look at the rule books and look at the game and not say yes to a game that I don't think I'll love, because unfortunately, I mean, you're probably the same way. It's like, my collection now is, I don't know, 400 games, and I'm out of space. I mean, that's what my place can hold.
Right.
And so at this point, like, if I like a game, that's not good enough to stay. I gotta love it,
Right.
Because something else is leaving or something else like that, and like isn't good enough. That being said, I mean, I'm happy to play a game that I like. I just can't keep it forever.
Right.
And so, I really do try to think about, like, what types of games do I like, and that's an interesting thing, right? Because when you first get into games, you're not thinking about why you like a game. You're just going, oh, I like this game.
Yeah, this game's fun.
This is a fun game. And so I'm definitely somebody that needs some player interaction. A dry Euro is just a little methodical for me personally. Okay. I need to be there's some interaction, and I need there to be a little bit of excitement, right? Like, a game that I like to use of one of my favorite games of all times is Champions of Midgard, because Champions of Midgard is like, there's a lot of strategy in that game. It's worker placement. You're trying to build up your resources, but in the end, you can gamble and roll some dice. And I like having that, like, excitement factor in the game. A new one that I'm liking a lot right now is Wonderland's War, which is, it's very big. There's a lot going on. It's area control, it's rondel, worker placement, it's all, but it also is bag building, which, just there's some reaching in the bag, hoping you get what you need. I like having that excitement factor in a game. And I'm somebody that doesn't mind take that. I know a lot of gamers don't like take that. I don't mind take that as long as it's equally incentivized for all players. I do not like a game where there are multiple paths to victory, and one of those paths is over here doing your own thing, and one of those paths is messing with people. No. We all have to be doing it to everybody, because then otherwise it's infuriating when you're sitting there and you're like, somebody messes with you and you're like, what, dude, why? I'm not doing anything to you.
I'm leaving you alone. Yeah.
But if everybody's doing it to everybody, then I don't mind it at all. I think it's really fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it definitely feels bad, and if you are that kind of person who likes more to kind of like, all right, you guys do your thing, I'm going to do my thing, and then people keep messing with you. It only takes one move too many to sort of spoil a game night, I guess.
For sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, how often are you playing right now? What's your typical gaming group look like, and how often are you guys getting together?
Yeah, so I have different people that I play with different types of games. I'm somebody that likes different types of games. So I have my group of there's like, I guess there's probably like 6 of us, but usually like 3 of us can play at any one time. And those are like my bigger, I call them my nerdy game group. Those are the ones I'm playing the bigger games with. They want to play something that's very strategic, stuff like that. They all have wives that are interested in lighter, more party games. So sometimes we'll bring those types of people in, and then we'll play like a lighter, fun night. I say fun. That's not like the other ones aren't fun, but just like sillier game night. Then my roommates like games, so they're kind of in between that, right? They don't want to play the real heavy stuff, but they also like are okay with some strategy. So like a perfect game that would be with my roommates is something like an Azul or something that level, where like, yeah, there's still a decent amount of thinkiness going on, but you can play it in under an hour. Those are the types of games I play with my roommates. And then every once in a while, I'll get a big group of comedians together. And this is where we're playing like the high player count party games. Like we want to play some social deduction. We want to play some, that sort of stuff. So I feel like it's nice that I have a bunch of different people in my life that like different types of games. So I can play a lot of different types of games. But I am decently choosy about who I'm playing which games with.
Well, you gotta get the cameras rolling next time the comedian group gets together. I can't imagine the laughs that are had sitting around the table with a bunch of comedians.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we'll get like 8 of us together and we're just all BSing and stuff. It's fun. A lot of trash talking, that's happening.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, kind of shifting back to TikTok a little bit. Obviously, you said you transitioned over from YouTube, and now your page has grown exponentially. I mean, it's incredible to see the growth. So
thank you.
I mean, talk to us about that. Is that what you were expecting when you got started, or
I mean,
how did that journey happen?
Yeah, I don't know that you ever have any like real expectations, right? Like you don't know. You just try to create good stuff and let the chips fall where they may. I did think that TikTok would work well for my style. So in that sense, I was hopeful that it would be good for me. And I talked to some other people that were doing decently well at TikTok before I started getting on there, just to find out some lessons learned and things like that. And it was also at a time where, with the pandemic, I haven't been touring as much as I was before everything. And so I had a little bit more time to create content and do that sort of stuff. So, I think the 2 things that I would say that helped me the most, and any advice that I would give to anybody else, is 1, figure out your voice. Like you want to have like a style. I come to this person for this thing, and I was lucky in the sense that like I've already had years on stage. I've already figured out my voice. And so I was able to sort of translate that into TikTok pretty quickly and easily. That being said, don't let if you don't know what your voice is, if you don't know what you want to be, that's okay. TikTok is a forgiving platform where you can kind of figure it out along the way.
Right.
I just think that did help me, sort of hit the ground running. And then the second thing that really helped me is that consistency. If you can post every day for months, I noticed this thing when I was probably like 3 or 4 months into TikTok where I'd been posting consistently. I've been posting good stuff, and it was nominal growth. People liked what I was doing, but it wasn't. And then it felt like TikTok started being like, oh, this person is consistently creating and getting people to engage. We're going to reward them. And like once a week or once every other week, TikTok would just blow up one of my videos. And I didn't always know what it was going to be or anything like that. And it almost felt like the algorithm was like, yeah, we'll throw this guy a bone,
Right.
But the nice thing about that, and the reason why I say that it's good to have created stuff consistently before that, is because when something does hit, you want a backlog for people to check out, right? If that was like your second video, people would look at your profile and be like, oh, okay, and then kind of forget about you. But when they go, oh, I like board games. Oh, this guy has, 100 videos all about this stuff. Like, yeah, this is worth a follow, because that also means that he's going to keep producing stuff if he's already produced this much. And so I think that really helped the consistency, not just for the blowing up, but for people going, oh, this guy's worth a follow because he's a consistent creator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting to hear about consistency. I mean, I've heard that word a lot as I've interviewed other creators, and that's a big word with TikTok, it seems like. And I think you're right. It is built into the algorithm somehow
it feels like it's more important there than anywhere else. Like, for instance, I think consistency is important on YouTube, but consistency on YouTube can be a video a week. If you're making a video a week, that's enough for people to subscribe and to go, all right, this person's creating good stuff. But a video a week on TikTok, it doesn't seem to move the needle much there.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's your secret, I guess, or what's your strategy with staying consistent with creating content? I mean, there's got to be days and weeks where you're just like, ugh, like I don't.
Oh, totally.
Hard to think of an idea or think of a novel thing that I want to do. So, what's your process for overcoming that?
I think one is like not letting my inner critic talk me out of stuff. I think we can spend a lot of time sometimes on going, is this a good idea? Should I do this? Like TikTok, you gotta let all that go. And you're like, this is an idea.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter if it's the greatest idea in the world. This is an idea. And you could just throw that stuff up there, and sometimes the dumbest stuff that you don't think is going to be great is like a thing that, I did a top 10 games I want to make out with video. Like it's dumb. That's a dumb idea, but it's a fun thing to just do and to put out. And I try to give myself now, like I am lucky that I am sort of someone that has a bountiful well of energy and things like that. And now it does go dry sometimes, and I try to also be honest with myself that like if I need a day off, that's okay. I try not to do a bunch of those in a row and stuff like that, but like I'm probably somebody that, oftentimes I post 7 days a week, but sometimes I post 6 days a week. And sometimes I post 5 days a week, and that's okay. Sometimes you just need a day to like recover and not film something. The other thing I do is like there are days where if I have a bunch of ideas, sometimes I'll shoot you know, 5 videos on one day where I'm like, I've got a window and I've got some ideas and I've got some energy. So let's shoot 5 videos today so that I don't have to feel like every single day I gotta be filming, I gotta be creating, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting what you said about, let TikTok decide if your video is good. Don't be your own worst critic. I find that a lot. I have some people that reach out to me and, ask me like, oh, should I do this? And I'm like, just do it.
Yeah.
And if TikTok likes it, they'll like it. And if they don't, what have you lost? Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's a difference maybe with other platforms, especially I think YouTube. Subscriber loss due to a video, I think it's more taxing on YouTube, where it's like if you put out too many bad videos in a row or too many really bad video, you can lose subscribers and lose your spot on the page, so to speak. Whereas I think with TikTok, it's like you put out a bad video, like, okay, put out a good video.
Well, and the reality is if you put out a bad video on TikTok, a lot of people just aren't going to see it. They don't. Yeah. It doesn't get put in front of people.
Right.
Yeah. Like if you don't get a bunch of likes and comments early on, then a lot of people aren't going to see it. Right. And you're not going to be like held accountable for that. And I also will say, in comparing it to YouTube, like YouTube wants you to be polished. TikTok doesn't.
Yeah.
Like I almost think that if you shoot TikTok stuff like in a nice studio, people go, oh, is this guy like a corporate shill?
Yeah.
Like,
is this sponsored?
Like it's almost more skeptical. It's like you can just, I mean, literally, I'm in my bedroom. Like I just have, I put up a light and I shoot stuff a lot of my videos are just shot here in my bedroom. Right.
Yeah, I've got an ugly filing cabinet behind me. That's always behind me, and
yep, for sure.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting, the differences and how it's not subscriber based. It's not based on if your followers, if you have more followers, then they are the only ones who see it and they have to invite other people. Like it is built very different. And the For You page obviously has been revolutionary in social. So
for sure. I mean, it's the only platform where random people can find you all the time.
Right.
You just don't see that on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah. As much SEO as you want to do to your video and as polished as you want to make the thumbnail.
Yeah.
Maybe the right person just won't find it. So what's your advice, if there are other people out there who want to do what you do and make engaging content or get into comedy, what would your advice be to them if they're, sort of just starting out and getting on their journey?
One is just start doing, I mean, I think we talk a lot and worry a lot and things like that where, you're not going to be perfect in comedy and content creation and any of that sort of stuff. But the nice thing is you can figure it out along the way, and you should figure it out along the way. And, I guess that's another piece of advice is, be paying attention. If you're doing comedy, film your sets and think about which jokes got laughs and why did those jokes get laughs and why are those different than the jokes that didn't get laughs. And you'll start figuring out just by doing. And in content creation, it's the same thing. Why did this video do well? What did you do differently on that video than you've done on a different video? And that's how you sort of start, we're talking about finding your voice. That's how you find your voice, is do the things that feel natural to you, but then pay attention to what's working and what's not. And then you can kind of hone your voice that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of finding your voice, I love that point from earlier. I think some people get very intimidated by that of, you have to niche down and get very specific with your page. And you have other people saying, just kind of put everything out there and see what sticks. What's your advice if for how do you go about finding that voice and figuring out what you want to make and how you want to make it?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think, you want to have a plan. That plan can change as you go along, but I think you want to look at the marketplace and think about, well, what's not being done, right? Like me, even when I first started on doing YouTube, my YouTube style translated to TikTok, But the reason I was doing short and funny videos on YouTube is because I didn't feel like those had been done that much. And it ended up maybe not being the best place for them, but it allowed me to sort of figure it out and then find a place that would be better for those. I didn't think that, most of the reviews that I was seeing on YouTube, they're 10 minutes, 15 minutes, things like that. And I was like, I don't want to watch that much. I feel like I can learn a decent amount about a game. I want to watch something that's like 2 or 3 minutes. And then if I like that game, maybe then I'll go watch more. And so I was like, I don't think that's being done that much. I want to be this like starting space. You can watch 5 videos from me in the time that you watch one video from somebody else. And then if one of those 5 games stand out to you, now go look up more from somebody. You watch a 15-minute, watch a 20-minute video. And that really just came from looking at what was being done and thinking about how can I do it differently. Yeah. There's a lot of content creators. There's a lot of, there's a lot of people that are making creative content, and having a voice means partly doing it a little bit different and doing it in a unique way to yourself. And so there's no right or wrong answer there, but pay attention to what other people are doing and think about, well, what can you add to this audience? What can you bring to this audience that other people aren't bringing? I think that's a really good place to start and a question to ask yourself right at the beginning.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's advice that I give a lot too is, first of all, you just have to start. I mean, wringing hands and nodding heads is not going to build anything. So yeah, at some point you just got to go for it and do something. And you may have all the preconceived notions and have done all the research, and the third video you make, that may all shift and be something totally different. I mean, I did not think I'd be buying lots of games off Facebook Marketplace and making videos about them when I started this. But, I made the first one and it kind of hit. So I was like, okay, I like doing that. So let's do it, So, I totally agree with you on that. And the other part is just about being true to yourself. Kind of what you mentioned at the beginning of this of, you can't get in with delusions of grandeur that, oh, I'm going to go and become famous on TikTok. Like I don't know of anyone who started that way that ended up getting, no one goes in with that intention, but for some people it happens, because they're focused on making what they want to make. They're focused on doing something that's honest and true instead of, well, this person got big doing this, so I'll do that too. Like
now, if you're like chasing something, chasing something, trying to stay on top of the trends, it never works for sure. You gotta just do what you believe in and do it well.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, Grant, if people want to find out more about you or see you on tour or any of that stuff, where can they go for more information?
Yeah, you can, if you want board game stuff, you can follow me on TikTok, which is Grant's Game Rex, RECS, like recommendations. I'm also on Instagram under Grant's Game Rex. And if you want to do comedy stuff, you can always visit my website, grantlyon.com. It's LYON. And if you want to hear my album hit #1 at the beginning of 2020, it's called Scheduled Fun Time. So you can hear that anywhere you listen to music and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Well, make sure to check out Grant. His stand-up is absolutely hysterical. So if you are a stand-up fan, please go check him out on YouTube. He is absolutely fantastic. Grant, really appreciate you being on the show today. It was great to have you. And
it was a lot of fun.
Hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks.